the previous videos, we talked about a story related to the variations orders and extensions of time. There are a series of the questions regarding these variations orders and extensions of time. Not sure if you can answer those questions. If you are able to answer all those questions, good for you. That means you have some basic knowledge regarding contract. If you are unable to answer those questions, never mind, you're going to learn it through this module. These questions are quite straightforward, where you can easily obtain the answers from the standard form of contract. However, in the actual working environment, sometimes you do encounter situations that you cannot get straight answers from the contract, and this makes studying contract to be interesting. You have to adopt the contract creatively in order to protect the interests of your employer as well as yourself. Since we have discussed about two stories, maybe let us go into the third story before we actually come into this module. Now, in this scenario, we have company X as the employer. The company called for a tender, which is later to be awarded to a contractors winning the tender. The project now is highly specialized and large construction project. It involves a huge sum of money, and as the outcome of the project, a major part of it will be machineries, equipments, and operating systems, which is highly specialized. It requires the involvement of specialists, and the said machineries, equipments, and operating system can only be acquired from overseas. Now, this project is related to the government. Specifically, it is related to the state government. There are terms and conditions being imposed where the project must be awarded to a local company. The purpose is for the technological transfer to ensure the local companies have the capacity to provide those highly specialized services. The second requirement is the company must be at least grade 7, which is the highest grade by the definitions of the CIDB Malaysia. We have total 7 grades. Different grades have their capacity of carry out the project sum not greater than certain limit. Company G7 has no limit in terms of the project scale. As we are talking about the large construction project, only company grade G7 is qualified. As the relevant knowledge are quite highly specialized, not many people in the Malaysia can do these services. Although company X call for a tender, but there is only qualified bidder that fulfills the criteria of the local company and company grade G7, stating they have this capacity to carry out the project. The company quoted price, which is accepted by company X as the employer, and thus the project is awarded to contractor A, which is the winner of the tender. In the tender, company X clearly states the specifications and the preferred brand of the components of the project, especially for the major parts related to the core business of X company. Within the specifications given, with the preferred brand, it is also included a term or equivalent. That means it is possible for the contractor to propose the otherwise, the other brand, which supposedly be clearly indicated while submitting for the tender applications. In this case, contractor A is the only bidder. The contractor initially agreed with the preferred brand, which in the document clearly stated that he will supply the stated brand and quote a price for that. Everything looks nice at this stage, and therefore Company X accepted and awarded the project to Contractor A. Contractor A then realized that it is not feasible for him to supply the brand as per agreed between him and the Company X, probably because he's overlooked certain aspects while bidding for the project. Whichever reason it is, no matter how hard he tried, it is not possible for him to supply the preferred brand as per stated by Company X. Now you have the project awarded and the construction work has commenced. That means the contract is running and he is unable to supply the brand which he initially promised. Then he proposed to change the brand with an equivalent or better specifications without changing the contract sum. This may seem to be logical. However, due to some concerns, Company X insists on the original brand. Probably the entire setup and the planning are in accordance to the said brand, but now this brand cannot be provided by Contractor A. Now Contractor A has a problem. He cannot provide the specific brand, but if Contractor A change the brand, it will bring impacts to the Company X, and Company X is obviously reluctant to bear the consequences. After all, it was agreed by Contractor A at the initial stage. Now when the project is running, suddenly Contractor A says it cannot be supplied. In order to overcome this, Contractor A tried his best effort to propose several brands, but all the brand has been rejected by Company X due to various concerns. We are not saying that whether it is Contractor A's fault or is the fault of Company X. They have their own considerations. The contract sum does not change. The brand requested by the Company X is a famous brand, which is well known of the best quality within the industry. Now changing the brand, it is likely that Contractor A getting cheaper brand with similar specifications. This will bring to the advantage to Contractor A, and because of various technical reasons, Company X cannot allot those brands as per proposed by the Contractor A, as it's going to bring impacts to the operation site later. And this goes on and off, where Contractor A continuously proposed new brand, but it was rejected by Company X. As a result, the project delayed. After a long negotiations, Company X finally agreed with a brand, which in his perceptions to be the best possible outcome out of the other alternative brands. Eventually, the project delayed, and contractor requested for EOT, extensions of time. Now studying this case, there are a series of questions arises. Some of those include whether the ultimate purpose of the tender is defeated when there is only one qualified bidder. We know that we call for tender is for us to have more alternative to choose for the best candidate to carry out the construction work. However, due to several restrictions, such as the requirement in terms of the local company, as well as the company grade, And the words actually is highly specialized, where the service cannot be provided by any local company. It ends up with only one qualified bidder. And this bidder is obviously having some limitations in terms of the capacity and competency. Now the question is there any better solutions for this kind of project in order to protect the best interests of company X? Next, is it legal to have the preferred brand stated in the tender document and insist on this? That means, does this company X do anything wrong if he clearly stated the preferred brand, which later it insists on it? And what is the meaning of or equivalent? As in the specifications, it appears a term, the preferred brand or equivalent. Now this equivalent means what? Equivalent in terms of the specifications or equivalent in terms of the reputations of that particular brand in the market. And when this term or equivalent appear, does it qualify to the contractor to change the brand as long as it meets the specification? Probably you don't have any argument if from the start of bidding, the contractors propose the other brand and he is the only qualified bidder, and leave it to company X to decide whether to accept and award the tender. The problem now is it was initially agreed by the contractor to provide the preferred brand, which later, due to various reasons, the contractor will have to change the brand. So does this or equivalent qualify the contractor to change the brand as long as it meets the specifications? And is this justifiable for the contractor to change the brand, let's say with an equivalent specifications, without changing the contract sum? As we have mentioned, the initial preferred brand is the number one in the market. The other brand, most likely it will be cheaper. Next, can company X as the employer reject the brand they disliked? Especially in this scenario. The project now is running. Contractor A initially promised to supply the preferred brand, now cannot deliver. Can company X reject that? Can this be considered as breach of contract by contractor A? You know that different brands can have similar specifications, but the quality can be different. This can be easily understood when you are buying for a smartphone. The same principles apply. No matter how objective you can make the tenders to be, it is undeniable that there are still something that is non-measurable, and this cannot be discriminated in the tender document. For example, in this case, you are talking about the local industry do not have this expertise. Company X now trying to venture into something high-end technology, and one of the requirements, they need to be well equipped with the top and the most advanced equipment. This is going to be the image to the company as well, and it is a state government related project, which at the same time it represents the image of the state government. These are something that cannot be directly measured, and you know that we need to make sure the tenders is being carried out in a fair manner, justified manner, but this cannot be graded and segregated by the tender document. How do you intend to resolve this? Next, is the contractor qualified for EOT under these circumstances? The root cause now is the contractor cannot supply the brand, but he is working hard trying to rectify this. He has demonstrated his sincereness, went through several rounds of proposing and rejections by company X. He is still eager trying to deliver the project in accordance to the requirements and the preference of Company X. Now, is he qualified for EOT? This is going to mean a lot to him because this is directly related to the penalties which will impose onto him due to delayed delivery. Also, if you see this case, what is the functions of the contract administrator? He remains silent throughout. Is that right? What can he or should he do? Although the contract administrator is not mentioned in this story, obviously he is not a part of it. Can contract administrator remain silent on this? Also, the contractor proposed changing the brand with equivalent specifications without changing the contract sum. Is this justified? Any better solutions to protect the interests of both sides? I feel this case is quite interesting, with a lot of critical discussions. Probably only those experienced people who have been working in the industry for quite some time are able to answer this. Would you like to try to answer these questions? Feel free to comment.